Gleamings in the Path of Memorising Quran. Notes from the lecture by Ustatha Maryam Muhammady. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Before starting, highest aspirations. You should aspire to achieve the greatest and attain the best rewards. It should be your dream to memorize the whole Quran with the ability to recite it with the most beautiful recitation. And from the benefits of memorizing the Quran, it will be said to the companion of the Quran, recite and rise in status. Recite as you used to recite in the world, for your status will be at the last verse that you recite. The Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, "The likeness of the one who reads Quran and memorizes it is that he is with the righteous honorable scribes. The likeness of the one who reads it and tries hard to memorize it, even though it is difficult for him, he will have two rewards." Fasting and the Quran will intercede for a person on the day of resurrection. Fasting will say, "O Lord, I deprived him of food and desires during the day, so let me intercede for him." The Quran will say, "O Lord, I deprived him of his sleep at night, so let me intercede for him." Then they will both intercede for him. Your personal dream should be to memorize the whole Quran, to recite it with the noble angels, and attain the highest place in paradise. You should remember this goal and know that it is better than everything in this world. Memorization of the Quran is the pillar of knowledge. Memorizing the Quran is regarded as the first step in attaining Islamic knowledge, and earlier students would not be accepted into further Islamic studies until they had completed memorizing the Quran. Dispelling negative thoughts. Sometimes we have negative thoughts after starting out which prevent us from memorizing. You may say, "Where have I reached in memorization? I am slow. I need free time. The Quran is full of difficult and similar verses. I keep forgetting," or feeling helpless when it comes to memorizing. We need to seek refuge with Allah from Shaitan, who is trying to prevent us from good. We need to be strong and know that every effort counts. As mentioned, the one who has difficulty receives twice the reward, and we are rewarded for our intentions if we are serious and truthful. The first gleaming, secrets of success. The secrets of success include sincerity. Whoever is sincere will strive. The intention, check your intention to memorize. Your sincerity and gratitude, these strengthen the determination. The blessings of Fajr. It is said whoever the light of Fajr shines upon, the darkness of the path is dispelled from him. And strengthen. Whatever you memorize, retain it. The second gleaming. The younger, the better. It is said the memorization of the young is like engraving in stone. Studies have shown the young find it easier to memorize and are more flexible to continue improving their pronunciation, while those who are older find it more difficult to correct their reading and retain what they have memorized. Therefore, we should not delay memorizing the Quran. The third gleaming, pillars of memorization. Pillar 1. Time. The most precious hours for memorizing the Quran are the earliest. Before or during Fajr are recommended. However, it is most important that everyone dedicates a time that they can memorize undisturbed and on a continual basis. If the only time a person can arrange is before sleeping, there is no problem with that, except they should take care not to delay until they become too tired. Pillar 2. Place. It is better to memorize Quran in your room far from every distraction. Avoid parks, rivers or busy places which are full of distractions and prevent you from focusing. The important thing is that you are able to free your mind and concentrate on the Quran while you memorize. Pillar 3. The amount. They say a little done frequently is better than a lot done rarely. It is advised to memorize 5 verses at a time and ensure that not only the verses are memorized, but also that the reciter understands them and applies them in their life. Then they should proceed to the next 5 verses. Note, a person's ability may also affect the amount of their memorization. To revise the pillars of memorization: time, place, and amount. Choose them wisely. 4th Gleaming: Methods for Quran Memorizing. 1. The eyes. Looking at the verses is considered the best way to memorize Quran, where the student makes a mental image of the letters, vowels, verses, and the page. Those who memorize from the Mus'haf, the written form of the Quran, are able to visualize the position of the verses, which further aids in memorization and recollection of the verses. 2. The tongue. When memorizing the Quran, the verses should be repeated. The more a person repeats the verses, the more they solidify it in their long-term memory. The verses should be repeated before, during, and after memorization to increase their permanence and ease of recall at a later date. Additionally, the verses should be recited at all times with tajweed, correct pronunciation. People who do not pay attention to tajweed while memorizing have difficulty recalling the verses when applying tajweed later. 3. The ears. While children and some adults are able to memorize hearing the Quranic verses, it is also an important method for memorization. Tajweed is compulsory for everyone who recites the Quran. Therefore, listening to the verses recited by a qualified scholar helps the student of the Quran to memorize correctly. Additionally, when listening to the verses repeatedly, the brain creates audio maps in the mind, which further assist with memorization. 4. The minds. Thinking about the verses is an important part of memorizing. Whenever anyone memorizes the Quran, they should memorize and understand the meanings of the verses. Furthermore, when you recall the meanings of the verses, it will help you to remember the following verses and correct any mistakes in memorization. 5. The hands. Writing the verses of the Quran is another method employed to aid in memorization. Writing the verses may be done before memorization or from memory, both of which have a huge impact in memorization, whereby the visual mapping of the verses is reinforced by the added concentration required to write the verses. Note, the Quran should only be written according to the Uthmani script, as found in the Mus'haf, using the small vowel markings, and not with New Standard Arabic. Methods for Quran memorizing. People have different learning styles of which these methods are representative. 1. The eyes are for the visual learning style, the tongue, verbal learning style, the ears, auditory learning style, the mind, logical learning style, and the hands for the kinesthetic learning style. Other learning styles include social, where people may learn Quran best with a teacher or in a classroom. This also allows for mistakes to be corrected. Solitary. Some people may learn best when alone without any distraction. Or a combination. A combination of these methods is most beneficial when memorizing the Quran. Frequency. It has been noted that listening should be done more frequently, then recitation, then reading, then writing. However, all of these methods should be applied as frequent as possible to improve memorization and retainment in the long-term memory. Strengthen your memory. Our ability to memorize is strengthened by practice. This means the more we implement these methods of memorization and continue to memorize the Quran, the stronger our ability to memorize will grow. It has been noted how students who memorize the Quran have excelled above their peers. 5th Gleaming, 1 Mus'haf. Restricting to 1 Mus'haf. Visual forms of memorization are based on the positioning of various verses in the page, which enables you to memorize easier. Furthermore, by memorizing from the Quran visually, you are able to correct mistakes when verses aren't read according to their visual positioning on the page. Changing the copy of the Mus'haf, where verses begin in different positions on a page, can inhibit memorization and cause confusion. Therefore, it is recommended to choose a readily available format, such as the Medina format, and keep to this format. 6th Gleaming, Tafsir. Learning the tafsir, explanation of the verses, along with memorization is highly recommended. Without background knowledge, some of the verses may seem a little awkward or strange. However, by knowing the tafsir, reason for their revelation, and understanding the fiqh, legal rulings of the verses, and other related insights, it will lead to a deeper understanding which will further assist with memorization. 7th Gleaming, Strengthening the Link. The Quran is interconnected from surah to surah in addition to internal links. Links from word to word are generally made by understanding the Arabic and grammatical composition. Memorizing verse by verse will reinforce those links. Verses can then be memorized in chunks or by pages, which will reinforce the links within each section or page. However, just as we memorize verses by groups or pages, we also need to make connections between each group of verses or page. This can be done in either of two ways. 1. The last verse from the previous group or page is joined with the following group or page. Or 2. By connecting or linking the meaning of the last verse mentally to the meaning of the following verse. By this method, you need to recall the connection as you revise. 8th Gleaming, Concentration. The Quran contains over 6,000 verses, 2,000 of which are the same or have similarities with other verses. At these places, it is necessary to increase one's focus on the verses in order to avoid confusion. When memorizing a new verse which is similar to another verse, compare the verse and make mental notes of the surah, their placements within the chapters, their differences, and the surrounding verses. Focusing on the similar verses and increasing your concentration while reading will help you to recall the correct verses in their correct positions. Learning tafsir and balagha, rhetoric of the Quran, will further reinforce the verses and make the similar verses easier to memorize. 9th Gleaming, Companion. Friendship has a huge impact in our lives and can be very influential. Therefore, it is of great importance to the one who is serious about memorizing to find a companion who has similar goals and with a similar level of determination. Together, you will help each other, remind each other, and encourage each other to keep striving. Additionally, you can assist each other by spending time together, revising and correcting each other's basic mistakes. Furthermore, it is essential to find a qualified teacher who can correct your mistakes and guide you to improve your recitation. In the event a qualified teacher is not available to assist in your recitation, you should increase listening to a qualified scholar. Additionally, you can recite in unison with the recording of the sheikh to match your recitation. In the event your recitation is longer or shorter than his, you then need to adjust your recitation. Recording your recitation and comparing with the scholars is another method used to assist in correcting one's recitation. 10th Gleaming, Revise. Remember that after every difficulty comes ease. The more you build and strengthen your mind, the easier memorization will become. Therefore, it is necessary to revise what you have memorized frequently. Immediately after memorizing, you should revise twice a day, and everything you have memorized, revise it each week. It is recommended to revise your memorization in your prayer, and some scholars suggest the best prayer for revision is the night prayer before Fajr, as it is the calmest time of day and the ability to focus is higher. In the event you forget a verse, spend some time and try to recall the verse. If you cannot recall it, after you finish your prayer, revise from the Mus'haf. For those who have very busy lifestyles, other times can also be dedicated to revision, such as while travelling on buses, cooking, cleaning, walking, or waiting times. Note, driving is also a good time for revising, but only chapters which you have memorized very well and are not in need of checking. Otherwise, you would pose a danger to yourself and other road users. 11th Gleaming, Seek help. Seek help through deeds. Ensure you have the correct intention and avoid doing anything except for the sake of Allah. Make dua. Ask Allah to help you and make it easy. Increase in the remembrance of Allah and be grateful when given the tawfiq, success, to do righteous deeds. Increase in all good deeds. Righteousness paves the way for more righteousness. And increase in seeking forgiveness. Arrange your life. Keep your life focused toward your goal and plan around your memorization routine. Be realistic and ensure you have allocated time to fulfill the rights of those around you. Avoid sins, as this causes forgetfulness. Avoid memorizing while extremely hungry or after overeating, as this inhibits memorization. And eat healthy foods which improve memorization. Don't delay. Start now. Make your intention to memorize the Quran for the sake of Allah alone and strive toward your goal. May Allah make our path easy to memorize the Quran and apply it in our lives. O Allah, guide us to the straight path, learning and living the Quran, and grant us Firdaus. Ameen. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. How perfect you are, O Allah, and I praise you. I bear witness that none has the right to be worshipped but you. I seek your forgiveness and turn to you in repentance.